Booyah. Booyah. Oh, I'm loving this setup. Greetings. I am loving this setup. Get some more tea. I'm loving this setup. Oh, with this setup. I'm loving this setup. Yeah. I don't even know how I want a cold, kind of. I forgot that borders like that. Anywho, oh, I can just put a pillow on my back. That'll do. What's happening? Y'all like this backdrop? I love this backdrop. Let's give an honor to Source, the creator, the Most High, for making all this possible. I feel like I got a natural light going on. This is good. Let me see. Make it a little brighter right quick. Natural light, dude. All right, position y'all real good. Yeah, how are we? Anywho, what the plug is going on with y'all, man? What's going on? Gotta make sure I don't hit my head on this thing. But yeah, what's going on? This is a very vital topic. I'm not sure if I talked about this before, but I can tell my body starts to feel stuff when I know I need to talk about stuff, and I be bringing it to y'all, man. I don't know what's in the atmosphere right now, but I know there's a lot of energy floating around. Let's give an honor to Source. I already said that. Honor to Source, the creator, the Most High, whatever your higher power is. Let's give an honor to Source for making all this possible. Shout out to you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. Gratitude. Man. Y'all bear with me. If you want to do these deep breaths with me, that's fine, because it just really guides me to supporting, like helping me stay grounded. And bro, there's so much going on. You're not the only one. I just be feeling tension in my back when I know I need to talk about stuff. If you don't know that by now, like I be feeling it. When I be called to talk about something, it just keep itching, keep nudging, knocking, like, come on, you gotta talk about this, And I immediately feel better after, immediately. So, yeah. And I notice it feels very uncomfortable when you're going through transitions in life, when nothing seems like it makes sense, when you're trying to embrace the unknown, step out in faith, take risks, all the while focusing on your own individual journey, and then come and sharing with y'all. I really just unapologetically had to step back from just a few people. It's nothing at all has anything to do with them. It does, but it doesn't. So let me correct that. It does, because people are reminders. People are reminders of, when they come along our journey, they are literally reminders. You know, whether we need to focus on more of ourselves or even engage in said connections. So it's very important, even recognize what season you're in. As much as I be wanting to engage more with people, I have to also remind myself to pour into myself. This is also a way of pouring into myself, because I really just see it like talking with myself, like a vlog in a sense, but also I'm really just talking to myself. I'm sharing my experiences, my thoughts. But then when I get into sharing things involving what it is, the message that needs to be shared, that's kind of different. But at the same moment, when I know I'm being called to do something, I have to really step away from a lot of things. And that comes with uh, more visibility in a way towards whatever your endeavors are, and then less accessibility to said people or interactions. And that's the thing, like, where the Most High, sorts to seclude you to where you're now having to do things and approach it a different way. And I don't get on this shit to at all make it seem like I'm perfect, got it all together. No. I'm still unlearning behavior patterns, recognizing even the fact of how I've trauma bonded with myself. Did you hear that? How many of us know we trauma bonded and have trauma bonded with ourselves? Let me say that again. How many of us know that if we grew up in environments where we didn't even recognize the fact that we've trauma bonded with ourselves? So just when I think like I'm not at all gonna act like, I'm not at all gonna sit here and act like, oh, yeah, parents is perfect. Oh yeah, I'm perfect. No, it's the awareness like I'm human too. Like there's times where I don't even realize like where this anger, where certain things come from. But I have a heightened awareness now to realize like you deserve to be better for yourself. I don't know who needs to hear that. You deserve to be better for you. You deserve to be safe with you. Even if you grew up in environments where you didn't feel safe. You now, whatever age you are, you deserve to feel safe. It took me, and still it's a process of taking me like years to learn what it is to feel secure and safe and belonging to myself. And that's been one of the most difficult things. My hands is ashy in the authenticity, I don't care for. I just be recognizing things about myself. Focus. So, that wasn't even the subject, but it'll lead into that. But I realized like the awareness around how much I've trauma bonded with myself. And if you're not familiar with trauma bonds, you can look it up. But it's just basically like developing an unhealthy behavior pattern that you're unconsciously aware of, which can really be one of the most dangerous things out here in the world, which you are kind of like seeing. And like, again, I don't proclaim to be a therapist or anything or having this. I've talked about my experiences with that. Even meeting people with that. I'm just like literally sharing my own authenticity, my experiences from the best of the depths that I know how, the emotional aspect. Like as the more I start to unravel about who it is that I am, I honestly feel like with that belief system, that's the greatest thing that you can ever like uphold in this world, on this earth, wherever you are, is the knowledge of self. Like you knowing who you are, who you were, who you're becoming. And that's recognizing the unhealthy parts of you that you didn't even know, like unconsciously, that you were doing. And that's what I realized what has been one of the most challenging things that is being revealed to me or has been revealed is seeing how those behavior patterns that I developed through a belief system of a mother, a father, society, systematically, whatever, demographically. And then you realize the impact it has had, not only on your life, but everyone else. For instance, like an example, like if you didn't grow up around someone who is financially literate or educated on certain things, then you may develop some behavior patterns where you don't even realize like why you have certain spending habits. I can tell you personally, me, I've seen people grow up and no, they didn't have the best and healthiest habits. And you don't catch this early. And so it's like, yeah, we're being told go to school, do this and do that. But a lot of us know like in the universities, they're not teaching you financial literacy. They're not really teaching you. A lot of stuff have been so rooted in not only fear, but survival mentality. And so it's very challenging breaking free from that because you have to go through your world, how can I say this? Like, my world has shown me how much I'm breaking free from the programming where it could seem, the illusion can give off like, oh, this is what thriving looks like. And then in actuality, when I see the importance of my well-being, I'm like, yo, what? It hits you like, why does chasing a bag or getting all this money mean so much to people? You know, you start to question everything like, why am I trying to run a rat race? Why, why is it my well-being a priority when it comes to sports, when it comes to going to school, when it comes to so many things? Why isn't that a priority first? And so just like gradually what's been happening over the years, which has, again, I cannot convince no one of my path or story, what has gradually become easier for me is to learn more about myself when I did not allow others' narrative or belief systems to control me. I became more at ease with myself. I became more aware of how and what I was doing, how even doing nothing could still have an impact on everything around you. Or what am I saying? It's like even just being who you are ruffles people's feathers. Did y'all hear what I said? Being just who you are is something the world has never seen, because you're talking about belief systems of people who only know a programming of coming out of their mother's womb, going to school, going to do this, do that. And literally you see hundreds and thousands of millions of people do the same thing, but literally have no awareness of who they really are to the depths. So I can see personally why authenticity is a threat to so many things, to corporations, business, and so forth. I can see why there wouldn't be no support in said area. And this leads me into the topic at hand. Someone was sharing with me, which really touched me, and the divine was like, you have to talk about this. And the thing about when I get subjects or someone says something, it literally hits me to where I'm like, okay, I don't think twice at all, or not even think at all how I'm going to just come at, like, I don't have this shit written down. Some of the things I do have notes so I can, go and return to it, which I've done. Like, if it's there, something's like, okay, talk about this, write it down, something, or it's just gonna keep coming. But someone has said something which I feel like is very vital into everything that I've been talking about, because I kind of went off the rockers for a minute, but this, it still, in this totality, it makes a lot of sense with what is happening. For a lot of you, is that the world or everyone around you, do they really know the importance of grace? This took me over 30 years to learn the importance of grace. And the reason I'm going into my subject, y'all bear with me. I have a way of like doing the storytelling my own unique way. But anywho, this is just a little side message for you all. Learn grace for yourself, because we'll be going through some stuff and we forget about the grace. This is why I realized how much anger I've had and resentment, even towards myself and even towards like relationships that I've had, because I didn't know the importance of grace, like having grace with myself, holding space for that part of me that was angered or went through something traumatic, whether at 13, 12, and so forth. And I've been recognizing this with a lot of people that I've been meeting, to where they don't understand or comprehend that sometimes someone can come in your life just for a mere second, season and reason and so forth, and they'll say something. And I've gotten to a place where I immediately, you can say, detach or just get what I need to get and move on. For some people, if they're not in a place of knowing what it is to like not be so attached emotionally to certain things, they will easily want to cling to something that they never, like, in a way, what I'm recognizing, like, people will be drawn to you, but they want to cling, they want to hold on to something that's like, they don't even understand, like, they'll unconsciously want to tug at your light or hold on to you, when you have the awareness, for a lot of us that will come into this, or I've learned that, no, I just needed to meet you that time to recognize this, to recognize that, oh, I'm still in this season where I have to pour into myself, where you're really not going along with me. Some people actually return, or energy will return, or certain things will look familiar to you, like, oh, this is why you showed up, because I recognize, like, this is a past version of me, or a version of me that I've let go. So this energy try to show up, or this thing try to show up again, if we're aware, to remind us to press forward. And that's where discipline comes in. And so I just wanted to share that before I go into the topic at hand, about, like, give yourself grace. No one is perfect through all of this. It's literally lessons. You know, and that reminded me of, like, even seeing, like, my son growing up. It's like, I had to recognize, like, where I'm at. I had to recognize, like, yo, he months ago was just, didn't even know how to sit up on his own. He was months ago, like, didn't even know how to do certain things. He had to learn how, you know, when you're holding a child, mothers know, he had to learn how to burp. You know, he's learning his body. He's learning how to, like, just navigate life. It still is. So my message to a lot of you, wherever you are, your negative is positive, your positive is negative. It's not just a bad or good thing. Life was showing me, like, when you look at a child, and I've said this before with my daughter, but I see the balance with, when you look at, like, a child, a little boy, we are no different. We are no different in a spiritual or metaphorical sense, or whatever. When you're able to see that child as yourself, but also put yourself in that position where, how could I reference this? It's like, what has been lost in humanity is that a lot of us, especially a lot of mothers, and this is what I'm going to get into the topic, is that a lot of them has lost sight. A lot of our great grandmothers, you know, fathers, and, you know, especially our mothers, I always talk about the matriarchal, has lost sight of so much of that little child within them, that little girl. And either they've been wounded by a father, or they've been wounded by men, to where they lost sight not only of the little girl, the feminine principle, or lost sight of that feminine energy, but they lost sight of that masculine energy as well. Which, again, we all hold the masculine and feminine principles or energies, is we've lost sight or have covered up so much due to whatever it is we're trying to escape through, or whatever it is we're trying to repress more and more each day. So that being said, let me give y'all, for those that, you know, I got to break this down in levels. When I say lose sight or lost sight of the inner child, it's like what I've said before, you lost sight of your essence. You don't know what it is to be innocent anymore, because you carry guilt, or you've been carrying guilt for years. You've been carrying guilt of a fair relationship because you felt like what you've done wasn't enough, and you don't feel enough. You know, and that has caused you to feel everyone cup but your own, so no relationship will ever be enough. Because your relationship first, again, is just as important. So this is why I've gotten to this place where I had to recognize and be honest with myself, like, okay, this is honestly coming to a head. This is honestly, like, not it anymore. And it's not with the person. It's with the person, because that's the energy. But it's a version of myself to where I realize, like, you know what? This isn't for me anymore. And that's very tough in a society where we're prone or groomed or programmed to believe that we need people. And that's not to say they're not here into supporting us, but this goes back to where I'm saying we have gotten so far, especially our mothers, they've gotten so far away from their femininity, the importance of their principles, that they have been so much in their masculine and they actually believe that this is what it is. I met a young lady, I said young lady, but an elder the other day in the store. And I just knew she was from an area where I was from, or somewhere, what they call the South, hint North, but anywho, where she just gave me this essence of like a great grandmother or just like a grandmother energy. But deep down, I could just sense the tiredness. So we were just talking, and she told me she was from Louisiana. Shout out to people in LA, Louisiana. That's the other LA. And just chopping it up, and somehow we got into the subject. She was a melanated woman. And the reason why this is so vital, I want y'all to know like how much a lot of our grandmothers, some probably your grandmother, depending on the demographics, have been tilling the fields, doing a lot of stuff for so long, to where I literally saw this woman and I can literally be like, wow, she just dragging along in the store. We got into some things and talking about some things before we got to the front of the line. I let her go and we were talking, and I was just like, wow. And let me be the first to say, I'm not saying this at all to boast about, like, I gotta make this very clear. I'm not saying, this is just the whole storyline. I'm not saying this at all to make it seem like, to go video, to go boast, to proudly say this is, oh, I did this for this person. No, I'm saying this when I get to, to say like, this is something like, I was called to do from my heart with the elder. We were just talking about like what areas we were from, and then somehow we got into, how she celebrated a so-called holiday, until like, we were just basically, you could just tell we were talking about different generations and so forth. And I was like, yeah, my grandma and them, they don't really know the importance of like what it is to be an entrepreneur. They don't know what it is to like do certain things. They so used to working hard, and the narrative that they gave me, a lot of them gave me was like, oh, you gotta go out there and work. I was like, that just don't work for us. She was like, yeah, I get that. Then somehow it's just like when you are in an energy of authenticity or integrity, your energy literally will mirror back people, and they will actually express things like from a place. It'll either their insecurities or some of their deepest insecurities, or certain things that you just need to hear to be reminded of why you're on your journey. And this is why I'm finna get in. This is what I'm finna get into. She was like expressing the fact of like, how the generation is different. And I'm telling her from my perspective, because that's all this is. And she was like, yeah, certain holidays, we just had a box in the corner, I don't celebrate, I don't celebrate holidays. To each their own with people. I don't celebrate the SEMAs, whatever you want to call it, Christmas, whatever. I don't celebrate that. I don't encourage that, because there's a lot of history, ritual things behind that, energy and so forth, that I just don't get into, because my experience is different. Not trying to downplay anybody else's, but it's just all perspective. But she mentioned that, and then she was saying how during her when she was young, she said they had just a box in the corner with like peanuts, basically no Christmas tree, not really knowing nothing about a Santa Claus, or and she said like a peppermint stick or something, and I was like, whoa. Then she was just going on while we was in the line, like talking about like how, on the land and what they had and so forth. And I was just like, whoa. For me, I was grateful, because these are the women who have paved the way for us to be where we are. But at the same time, like what I was called to do is like, I told her to go in front of me. She ended up getting her stuff. And I was like, don't block your blessings. And she was like, okay. She was like, and I said, okay, I'm just gonna pay for everything. She was like, what? She was like, da da da. And the reason I say that is because a lot of our women because of how much they've been wounded, or because how much they've had to step out into the work field, or step outside, or, away from their femininity. They've had to step away from their authenticity of really who they are. So they have to develop a belief system because society has told them that you're not valuable. This is who you are. Then society had, not to mention, not just society, but going to the root of whatever belief system their mother and father had, whatever they developed at a young age, subconsciously from what they saw. And this again is something energetically that has carried into their adulthood. And then she was like, wow, I appreciate that, bless you and all that. I was like, I don't say bless, I just saying the word bliss. But she was like, bless you and all like that. I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, because some people have a way of be like, no, don't do it. You know what that is? For a lot of you that don't know that, that stems from the fact of you believing that you're supposed to be independent when nobody here. There's nobody. I'm talking about going all the way back. This is something I said, going all the way to your mother and father meet. What have you done independently? Really? There's an interdependence or interconnection where everything is connected, but what have you done independently? I'm not saying in your individualism where you go out there and do things, but when I look at things spiritually, ancestrally, all things being connected before we got here, your mother and father had to meet, there's someone that came along when you didn't have this. I'm not saying you don't have the courage to go out there and do certain things, but there's this emphasis I realized with a deep programming on women, being pushed to be independent, and not realizing how much that's keeping them or coming from a wounded state. A wounded state to where it's like, I'm not saying you're not beautiful and divine on your own individualism, but the importance of you realizing like the partnership with yourself, your physical and spirit aspect, and what and who was there before you arrived to where you are and to your so-called independence. Where does it really stem from? What is it rooted in? And so I just noticed that energy of the wounded masculine, to where this toughness, I don't care how beautiful a woman is externally, it's still, I can recognize the underlining where she's disconnected from her emotions, to where she comes off really tough. She can speak soft and all like that, but that independence that's driving her. I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do, my mom didn't do this and the other. And there was a quote, something like what Bruce Lee was saying, how instead of giving your children all this material things, teach them things that you were never taught. And what I got from that is like the importance of instilling into my princess, like the importance of integrity. Like, yes, daddy, when you see daddy here, behavior and so forth, also keep that same energy, not just where you are, but out there. Be who you are. The best thing you can ever be is yourself out here. The reason that's so vital is because a lot of us don't realize what we have come from generations ancestrally where the displacement of our mothers, and this is the topic that I'm going to talk about, is what I recognize with that elder is that I can immediately see that, from her accepting that support, but she really didn't want to. It's showing the programming or just, the deep underlining of how far she's come. Because she even mentioned, she was like, well, I got to go to work in the morning. I was like, whoa. And it's almost like doing something you don't want to do or even need to do. But when you're in a society or in an environment where you see so much of the fear of being pushed to, like, if you don't do this, this can be the consequences. Or if you don't do this, then you won't have nowhere to live, or, you won't get this food, or, it's so many things we don't even recognize, like, that's so manipulative. That's so, when it comes to energy, when it comes to awareness of like how the world is shifting. And it can be very difficult for people to believe that it's shifting for the better. It's very difficult when their programming is so deep, especially a lot of elders. Because here I am telling her about the importance of entrepreneurship. And I was like, they don't even know how to do or even dare to do what I'm doing because of their programming has been so deep to where that's all they know. And this is where I tell you before the grace comes in, where I had to learn to give myself grace, because to walk a journey, to do something, whether money in hand or in pocket, whether even have a shelter at times, could seem oblivious, could seem crazy, could seem insane to people that don't know what it is to walk in integrity or authenticity, or just simply being yourself till you get to that point to where you realize that you're not exempt. I'm not exempt. There's no skipping over certain things, and then some people you don't even know personally probably have to get to where they are. And then when they are, the reason why they're unfulfilled or there's no peace or there's no mental peace or certain things is because how they got to where they got to wasn't through integrity, wasn't through authenticity. And they know that personally because deep down, they'll feel that, they'll know that. Because you can only uphold or keep a lie going for so long. And it's really going to highlight the disconnect really people don't like really have with themselves or this so-called God or creator that they say they believe in. And so the elder was like, she got to go to work in the morning. I appreciate you. I was like, it's all good. But I had to get that message there because just by me, it was placed on my heart to do that. I see it as I did it for myself. And however that injury returned, I can be open to it because it was authentic. And then with that, I'm recognizing with her, like, dang, what do I need to take from this? What do I need to learn from this? And I'm recognizing the old energy of an old world or old narrative. I saw my grandmother, I saw my mother, I saw countless women, no matter their career, no matter their demographics, no matter the color of their skin. I saw an energy of a woman that age who was doing something that she did not want to do, that she did not need to do. Her body was keeping the score of how long she has worked tirelessly to just live, to just have a home. And we believe that this is normal. We believe that a lot of this stuff, when it comes to, again, the matriarchy that I speak about, we believe that this is what our mothers, this is what they're supposed to experience. This is, again, I've said this, the emphasis on a country, environment, societally. You're talking about an earth, you're talking about a place that is feminine, where you have to honor the feminine principles to give birth to what you see in the physical, which is the masculine. What you see in society, masculinity. What you see in your leadership, whether through a woman or a man, but what has been portrayed. So the topic, because I've been coming around at this, the topic that I'm going to speak about that someone shared with me is our mothers. What is our mom? Our mom is where home is. Our mothers is where home is. And I was like, whoa. You know how you can hear something years ago, but then come back around, you're like, wow, our mothers are our home. Let me take a moment. I need to go get some more tea. I'll be right back. Is this gonna be good? It's gonna be right back. Our mothers are our home. And I'm gonna speak on different levels of this because a lot of y'all gonna get some deliverance today. Our mothers are our home, man. What does that mean? Someone was sharing to me like the importance of this, like our mothers are our home. And the reason I say that is our mothers are our first home. That's what it is. Yes. Ooh, I'm getting clarity just by saying this. Because it's so interesting like how our first home is in the womb of our mothers. Our first safety is with our mothers. Our first emotions, our first everything is with our mothers. And I know this is going to be a challenging for a lot of people because some of you mothers, some of y'all mothers probably, I'm going to go through this in levels. Some of y'all mothers probably abandoned you. I know personally I dealt with this. This is why I was called to share this. And I'll share my experience, but a lot of our mothers, some people mothers, abandon them very young physically, which causes an emotional abandonment or neglect in a way that most people are not aware of. A lot of you, your mothers probably, which is probably beyond your control, did not have the best health, or probably something tragic or traumatic could have happened while you were young. I know personally some people, their mom is no longer here. And the reason this is so vital to the grand scheme or how everything is playing out is that humanity has forgotten the importance of what the mother signifies and the importance of her rank spiritually, her presence, her everything. When I sit back and I see even mothers on the street, when there's really nothing in place, like corporations or business that truly, let's be fucking honest, that really gives them a healthy outlet for their mental health. There's women I've been meeting that mentally have stuff going on, that are just told to go to work, get over it, move on. And they're telling me about their experiences, and I naturally, I learned from it because I'm supposed to hear it and then transmute it into what you're seeing now. But there's a lot of them that when I hear some of their stories, and this is gradually over time from my own dealing with abandonment issues with my mother, that I didn't recognize a lot of, childhood traumas or adult traumas until I got to where I'm at now. And then being able to transmute that and become more aware of the emotional intelligence that I was called to develop, or what many of us already have. Because that's the thing about humanity. When you look at this society and everything, it's not built upon emotional intelligence. So the opposite of that is emotional ignorance or emotional avoidance. This is a society that has not only prone men to be emotionally avoidant, but to tell women to also be emotionally avoidant of their own intuition or their own emotions. So again, this breeds more men and raise them to be emotionally avoidant, to where this is where a lot of aggression, a lot of impulsivity, that's a word, or a lot of unresolved emotions come from. So we have been in a society where we have mothers with unresolved emotions, unresolved issues in their tissue, because you take the T off. They have unresolved issues within their womb space, within their bodies. And that's just personally from experience of shit I went through, put women through and so forth, to realize on a bigger and grand scale, I'm like, whoa. I had to go through things with my mother traumatically to see what I put women through. These are cycles, these are lessons, just for me to come right back around how karma does. And guess how I'm clearing it? I have to be fucking authentic. I have to be truthful. I have to see the bigger picture, to spread a message that's bigger than me. And through that, I'm not expecting at all people to accept, it. I'm expecting it to be trickery. But my place of realizing that this world that we've created, because we all been a part of it, there's no compassion. When I see how women have been treated, when I see how they have been neglected, when I hear the stories of women who have went through stuff that I don't even know how they stomach every day, how they process it, how they live through life, how even some of them are put on meds because there's no space being held for them before they're put on meds. Because we immediately think that soon enough we'll think that, and this is personally from sitting down with someone, I'm like, you just needed a little talk therapy. The little girl in you just needed to feel safe again. And that's the thing, this goes back to humanity, or everyone in totality. When you have a wounded masculine aspect energy that stems from a wounded feminine, this is where your war and your fights and all this stuff, people not at peace with themselves, people have unresolved traumas going out into fucking careers and so forth, and then you see these power struggles. You have women in certain places, let's use DSS, you have people in high places, what they call high places, and they literally have power struggles with themselves, because the power struggle really is into depth is really with themselves. It's really with their insecurities or ego in their higher self. And so this conflict of interest has a lot to do with people's own internal battle. So if our mother's our first home, I'm realizing I'm meeting versions of myself within women, especially, to realize, like, wow, I experienced someone who went through, again, something traumatic in their childhood, and just to hear how their mother responded to their experience, I was like, what? It was immediately deflect defensiveness, and made it about their own experience, which I'm not saying who's at fault. It's just showing the unresolved emotions, the unresolved traumas the mother had, to not even acknowledge and hold space for the daughter. She went to her father, same thing. Immediately, this fear or this insecurity, to where the fear of the consequences, which no one can outrun the karma, no one can outrun lessons. This is an energy thing. We all came here to learn something. So going back to what the root of a lot of this is that if our mothers are our first home, it don't matter what home you go out. You can have $1 million, a $2 billion home. And this is to everyone on every level. I don't care what career you're in. I don't care what you're doing. Like, divine justice is here. Things are balancing out. You can be a man or a woman in certain careers, which I recognize that. I realize, like, when I sit back and look, I'm like, wow, this is a lot of ego here, a lot of wounded ego. And it's like a sense of false empowerment, to where they want to feel like, they're bigger or better than someone because of whatever it is. But then I've been like, well, what if that man or somebody really they never felt safe? Or what really went on in their childhood? Or what took them to that place of getting into this place or, status, to where it's literally more ego-driven and wounded, rather than it being integrity and authentic. Okay, who enabled that? How many men can really sit down with their mothers and it be a healthy dialogue without something coming up? Or, how many women can sit down with their fathers without it being something? And how do y'all really know that whatever career, whatever you're in, isn't ego-driven, or from a wounded place, or from a wounded masculinity or femininity? And so where I'm getting at is, like, if the mother is our first home, like a temple, it's like literally in the womb with her for whatever duration. Not to mention, a lot of you dealt with stuff traumatically, to where you were forced out of your mother's womb. You literally imagine someone snatching you, like, literally. That's how I see C-sections. It's literally like, and I'm not saying this is all cases, but just the stories I've heard personally, forced C-sections that women are afraid to talk about. Their bodies are still healing. Epidural, a lot of stuff. Me personally, I know someone close to me, or just know the effects of what happened to them. I don't even know if I made a video on that, but when I say, like, just to hear how and what women have went through when it comes to things that throughout the years are still embedded beneath their tissue in their blood when it comes to things like that medically. It's it's wicked, bro. It's crazy how our women are taught to sit back and out of fear not discuss what has happened to them. They literally, it's almost like building a dam like from water to block all of these emotions of what women really feel inside. So I'm talking about also women who have been in these spaces where a lot of the medical aspects were never meant for them to be safe. A lot of it's fear induced. A lot of them is centered around control. And this is why everything is shifting. A lot of these career spaces are no different. It doesn't hold, what I'm getting at is like, there is nothing in place that holds a safety or security that involves the matriarchal feeling secure, healthy. The important things of what femininity represents. Now, if you look up the feminine principles, nurturing, there's, I know women who went to the hospital, there's nothing nurturing about doctors. There's nothing, embracing about a lot of careers out here that women are involved in. This goes back again when we're looking at the rise, if you want to know the rise of the divine femininity and divine masculine, because people get so caught up in the femininity. Okay, what counters from that? There's a rise in the divine masculine, the opposite of what the world has been seeing. And so, but again, it's all rooted, goes back to the mother being the first home for a lot of us. And so, if your mother never had a healthy pregnancy, if she never had an emotional support through her pregnancy, there's countless things I can go on and on. What did she experience through that? Did she have a supportive partner? Did her family, people? And this has not been humanity or society for years, hundreds of years, eons, whatever. This is not a place that has upheld honoring feminine principles, honoring the mothers. It's been the opposite of that. So if the mothers are our first home, then there has to be consequences to what has been put out here to keep mothers in a fearful state or to keep them in a controlled state or place where they're not able to really be who they are unapologetically. And honestly, this is what's happening. Like I said, I'm just a messenger. These are the things that are nothing can keep what the world is about to see right now. That's why my message is always encouraging, even the women who are unconsciously don't even recognize that they're wounded. Just to trigger, bring things to their awareness. And then even the women that are coming into it that needs a confirmation or needs a reassurance. No one's perfect in this. Again, I had to learn, how could I be safe for a woman if I'm not safe within myself? Okay, where did that unsafetyness come from? I had to recognize my feminine wounds to show up masculine. I had to recognize that masculine is your actions, your assertiveness. I had to recognize where I did not get nurtured, where I did not feel embraced. And when you're talking about a consistency of years, I don't know the depths of what my mother went through. I have talked about the story she went through after having me and what happened to her personally in the hospital giving birth. It's tragic because I don't know the depths of what she has to live with or have lived with. And what a lot of people don't know when you get into the chakras and when you learn about like blockages and the spiritual thing about a spirituality about certain things, you're talking about mothers who have held on to things, repressed stuff for so much, literally being able to see why her relationships are like the way they are, because this is a little girl trying to fight for attention or trying to get some acceptance. Not only that, being a melanated woman, a darker woman in this country, and how it has all over the world, until the divine masculine is rising within them, divine feminine, and all over the world within us all. to see how women that look like that have been portrayed, and then to also have kids by a woman that don't look like her, to also look face to face and hold her accountable, because as an emotionally intelligent man is to like, I can't force her to see or make her see exactly what I see. No, it's bringing her, bridging the gap between one universe and another universe. Like, this is what has been happening to me as a darker man. I also come from a darker woman. And this is how we have been portrayed to the world. For you as a lighter woman, or a woman of a different shade, and I'm not classifying or categorizing you and putting you in all, like what people like to put that white, black stuff and put it against people. No, I'm not race baiting. No, I'm not trying to turn you against darker people. No, I'm trying to bring you into a world, and I'm not expecting you at all to know the depths of what we have went through, because all darker people haven't went through that. It's bringing someone into the world, bridging the gap to where compassion can come back in. Grace can be had between, and that's what a lot of people ignore. It's like, I've been in a lot of these demographics where the divine has brought me to. I realize I've been meeting women that are of different shade, lighter, particularly, where it's like, it's almost like an imposter syndrome that I told you I go through, because I'm so used to growing up with people that are darker. And you talking about a few years of consistently being more around people that are lighter. It has brought up for me already what I've been going through, where, again, the topic at hand of like me, if our first home is my mother, then the divine mother aspect is showing up in all of these women, no matter their culture and creed. So it's on a deeper level, to where I'm going to reveal to you that the wounded femininity and how you see the wounded masculinity is in everybody. And that's energetically, meaning that woman, no matter her shade, has deep insecurities and wounds. So that's her wounded femininity, but her masculinity and how she acts and portrays herself, this is who she is. But are you able to see and hold grace and space for that woman, no matter what she is, no matter how she looks, no matter what career, no matter if she prostituted, gave her body away, are you able to listen to her? Are you able to receive that maybe she went through something traumatically and don't know where this behavior is stemming from? Maybe she didn't get the support. Maybe she's still trying to get the support. Maybe she's going through something where she felt like she resent her father because he should have protected her. Or a mother, that didn't believe her when, you have people that really told their stories about, a real honest truth. And it was automatically, you have countless millions of people who have went through this where it was denied. It was immediately, a mother or father could have responded in a way to where they deflected or didn't want people to judge them. And then now they're living with that guilt. And now they build resentment between the child and the father or the mother. And now that child resents that mother or father, and then grows up and realizes, like, now they're living with this cycle. How do I break this cycle? So you got people walking around trying to break cycles, literally learn lessons. And so, it's deep. It's deeper on a cellular level, spiritual level, ancestry, and so forth. And so again, it's like, I realized, like, why did I have to meet this woman? Because for me, and through my own lessons, is that if our mother is our first home, I can see through my woundedness where I was trying to find that in women. And that's from, as I said and mentioned before, every man and woman holds an image of a man or woman. And whether that's rooted in healthy or unhealthiness, but unhealthy behavior patterns or healthy behavior patterns. And so for me, I'm able to now recognize, like, if I dealt with sexual traumas and I'm realizing, like, I'm in this process of healing it, and like I've said before, I went through celibacy, And so it's a lot easier for me now to restrain from it. Then I'm able to recognize the women who just lead with this rather than, how they speak. And so it's no judgment. I'm not telling people to be perfect and all like that. No. You can recognize like what you actually done the work in, like healing, like the shadow work you say, stuff like that. That was something that I realized that brought a lot of my sexual traumas up, a lot of things to where I recognized that in my own mother. And so I even, used to question and be like, has something happened to you that you never talked about? And so, with that, I realized it goes back to the story of, this can get graphic if you have to turn away or come back to it. I know kids see this, but it's just authentic. But a lot of your mothers probably have never told you this, but a lot of stories I've heard from women are like unbelievable. And it's the way how they're literally taught to have this resilience and literally be consistent in their trauma. And they don't even recognize how much they've trauma bonded with themselves. They hold the trauma spiritually and they trauma bond with themselves. Partnership, meaning spirit and physical. So we don't even realize we've been trauma bonding with ourselves, so we naturally trauma bond with people, which is inauthentic. So with that, this is where again, if we never felt, going back, what I'm about to get into is like, I realized my mama dealt with something very young, or even when she had me, when she said that, the doctor, after she had me, was messing with her insides after she gave birth to me. Now, I can still see that as something, a sexual trauma, or something where she didn't feel safe, because you're entrusting this person to deliver a child. And then that immediately happens after. And so that can be very difficult for a woman to process and accept. And so again, there is nothing, when I look at society, especially for a lot of darker women in certain demographics, that holds space for them to talk about their traumatic experiences. I don't want to hear that shit about, go to therapy. Well, there's things where you talk about people can't even afford certain things, because then you can hear people, we're not to blame for that. Look how they live. Yo, listen, I have so much compassion to realize that you're asking, and this is what has also been challenging for me, you're asking of women especially, you're just disregarding and deflecting their emotions and everything that they feel. Already have tried to process so much daily by just trying to make a living or survive. You're asking of them to just consistently repress and suppress their emotions, to ignore how they really feel. That's very challenging for anybody to approach them and then immediately not feel some type of fear, paranoia. It can be countless of things, because I personally have exchanges with women to where it's really an internal thing to where they really have to feel safe. And a lot of us as men, due to our own traumas, due to our own shit, we don't even recognize how unsafe we are. Because a lot of our mothers never held that space for us to feel safe. So we aren't even, and I'm not talking about your wounded ego trying to portray, where I got money, I got cars, I got this, I'm that. But you have no emotional depth. You're not even emotionally secure. You don't even feel emotionally safe. Because women naturally are emotions. They naturally feel. They are naturally rooted, secure, changing, evolving all the time. So when you're asking of them to just be this, rock hard, and just to be this all the time, it's literally, I love when I be having setups where I can use it. It's literally, you're asking them to just hold up everything. Put everything on their shoulders, on their back. You're asking them to be this. And you see how this is wiggling? So you keep putting more stuff on here. Eventually it's going to fall. And that's like when I saw that elder in the store, it's like people are literally, you're asking of them to, a woman to express something that she's never dealt with 30, 40, 50 years ago, bruh. A trauma. Gosh. And as much as like, even what I went through with my mother, even though I know she wasn't a safe place for me, even though she did her best to be, even through her dysfunctionality, I still had to learn to have fucking compassion and grace for her. When I'm able to recognize what she has went through as a darker woman here. Then I meet women that are lighter and, have these talks with them that have went through things dramatically, whether sexually, emotionally, abusiveness, and so forth. And realize like, whoa. It makes you question like, what was their relationship with their mother and father? It makes you wonder, what have they been covering up so much? What have they been masking so much? And some people are so deep in it, they don't even realize they're doing it. It's wild. If our mother is our first home, when I sat there and talked to someone, I was like, for your mother, like, how do you feel? A lot of our mothers, women, outside of this mother, the matriarch or daughters, and no one has never really sat down with them and asked them how they feel about what has happened and is happening with them internally. Because when you have a society that believes that men are emotionally avoidant, we have to go to the root to why is that man emotionally avoidant? When we have a society that has over the years, when you have emotionally avoidant men, you have emotionally impulsive men. I'm a living fucking proof. It disgusts me sometimes when I don't even know how and where anger, this frustration comes from, why I'm frustrated. And I recognize like, not only is it adult trauma, it's childhood traumas. Because I realized that if my mother was my first home, it literally brings up memories where I know personally where I cannot say I have or had a healthy relationship, an authentic relationship with a mother. And this is not degrading, this is just real transparency. I cannot say I had a healthy relationship with a person that was addicted to drugs. We want to tell ourselves that, but in reality, it's not authentic. It's literally a trauma bond. I need to recognize how much I was trauma bonding with a woman who was fighting her own demons and vices, was fighting against her own self, who had no support, who had no emotional support. So her only coping mechanism was drugs. How many of us can? I've lived through it. So if my mother was my first home, I had to recognize that that home was never stable. If my mother, where I'm getting at is this, it didn't matter if she had a home physically. If my mother was not stable within herself, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, you are looking at fucking living proof of that throughout my childhood as a man, as a little boy that grew into adulthood. And when I see my behavior patterns, this literally reflects the energy of what I developed through those same emotional patterns that she had in her womb. Because if her womb was my first home, I don't know everything that went on with my mother. But when I look at the behavior patterns, when I also look at the women, when my mother abandoned me, when I had to learn about how my grandmother took me in and other grandkids, she was forced to be a caretaker when she didn't want to be. Who else was going to do it? And so I'm not able to give that back to my grandmother. We're not able to give that back to our mothers There's no amount of money. This is the thing I know, I learned about women with emotional intelligence. That men, let me tell you, bro, there's no amount of nothing you can give a woman. You know, and that's even to the women who are in their woundedness. You know there's no amount of money that can ever make a man, like, there's no amount of nothing that can make you feel fulfilled or love. There's no amount of money or material things. But that's the illusion of where it's been given off. Because of the depths of you celebrities, you people in corporate America, wherever you are, I'm talking to all of you, women especially. I don't care if you a fucking princess or a queen in another country. There's no amount of nothing as a man that can give you materialistically or anything else that will fulfill a void that a mother never gave you, or a father, the admiration, the reassurance, the security within you. Because a lot of what is mirrored back to the depths of that, to the root of it, has nothing to do with anything materialistically. And you know that. That's the rise of the divine feminine. When you awaken and become aware of something that you realize none of this shit even matters. Because you know to the depths of you, whether you're a mother, whether you're a woman, young girl, so forth. You are naturally, again, the glue, the foundations, generations after. And a lot of you never had the guidance, let alone healthy guidance, let alone a world or whatever you've been born into that was giving you anything that was literally built on a foundation of integrity, authenticity. A lot of you can be daughters of politicians, daughters of people in royalty. You can be daughters of people. And your lessons here, your awareness, your lessons could be come here to simply do something completely different that the matriarchal has never seen before. And you know what that is? It's to be your fucking self. It's to be you. Is it really coming here to do something completely different? Is it really to come and recognize and observe through the lens of the Most High that it's something you're supposed to do different? Even if everyone walks away from you, you can still have that mental peace and clarity. Because you know to the depths of who you are, your essence, that you don't have to lie to you. You can lay peacefully at night knowing that you didn't lie to you. I'm telling you, man, like, it can go all across the board. We're talking about countries, not just the U.S. We're talking about countries where you're going to see leadership women that are rising up to restore what the divine feminine entails. And through that process, a lot of you are called to support the divine masculine, to protect that. Because some of the people will never know. When I look at millions of people, hundreds of millions of people in this world, their programming is literally to uphold dysfunctionality. It's not rooted in authenticity. There's not countries and leadership that literally hold spaces for all of who we are. You're talking about countries, there's not countries in place that uphold the truth, which has already been exposed about the divine mother and son. The ancient aspect of these teachings that are resurfacing. There's nothing that can get in the way of that. And anything that will be literally, you're going to popcorn. Legacy be dismantled. So again, hearing the stories of what our mothers, women have went through, and people believe in that energy, like, isn't this is the energy that's returning. If our the U.S. in itself is created off of Cancerian energy, which is the matriarchal. For those that don't know, if you don't know nothing about this, now you know. And if you're not familiar with astrology, zodiac signs, look into it. Cancer energy, or I believe they used to call it Kepri, but Cancerian energy, which literally is family or tribe, clan, whatever you want to call it. Empire, the matriarchal. Um, all things feminine, the femininity, like the principles of that. So that's what's rising from the ashes. Basically, I'm gonna finish up with saying this. If the mother is our first home, this is my warning. This is not a threat. If our mothers is our first home, for any of you out there, I don't care what position you're in, if you think that you're not supposed to hold space for women with all that's going on, and you just literally think like energetically you're gonna get away with what you feel like you're not doing, or what you feel like you're doing, but also trying to hide from the masses or anybody else. I always said it, judgment is here. Like, there is something more greater than all of us. And this especially, I always speak to the women, but this is especially to a lot of men who you proclaim to be in higher places. I don't care who you are politically. I don't care how much money you have, because money in itself is feminine. So a lot of you that have been using it for control purposes, to manipulate, to prey on the woundings of a lot of women, to accumulate your wealth, as you call it, or to rise in a certain status, your days are numbered. And to the women also who are behind the scenes upholding these things through whatever rituals, whatever manipulation and so forth. Judgment is here for you too, divine justice. What else? And also, it's all gonna backfire now. Ashe. And it's gonna happen more rapidly. Because it's not just about the masses awakening, it's just what is in alignment. And one thing about, like, the rise of the feminine, like divine feminine and masculine, there's no fear. So a lot of this is like, it's funny, it's comical, because the healers, the ones that honor both the dark and light, who operate that in integrity and authenticity. I mean, we here, whether we are accepted or not, we've already accepted our own shit. We don't care to be judged by the world. They can judge us because their judgment upon us is their judgment upon themselves. This is what judgment is. Again, as more and more people think that they're going to get away with anything energetically that has happened in these countries, especially the U.S., starting with the U.S. first. If the mother is our first home, anything that has been happening and has been happening over time through your medical, your corporations, and so forth, yada, 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 there will be judgment. Scales have to be balanced. What you put out, you get in return. And a lot of you have the opportunity, or had, let me say this, you had the opportunity to do the shadow or inner work or be honest. So there's no more hiding. And to all the other countries and leaders, this goes for you too. Judgment is upon you all. Again, a lot of things that y'all are forgetting, that this is this is earth or surrounding that, everything. When you look at water, it's feminine, it's an energy, it's currency, it's ever changing. It embraces, it embraces at the same time it detaches in a way. So it's like, but again, water holds memory. So you're asking people, we have to remember that if mama is our first home, we're coming back home to mama, divine mother. And with that, there's an uncomfortability. That means we have to face our uncomfortabilities about ourselves. We have to face the unresolved emotions. Water holds memories. So when you're talking about subconscious, like a submarine, water holds memories of whether you're going through things ancestrally, generationally, in your life, on whatever level. Water holds memory. Think about when you cry, you let it go. That's why it's so beautiful to honor your emotions and tears and repressed emotions. A lot of you have to learn to give yourself grace as women, young ladies and mothers. A lot of you young women are way ahead of not ahead, but it can seem like you're an old soul to your mothers. No matter what your age is, a lot of you are very wise. A lot of you have to accept and embrace that. A lot of your mothers were not safe places for you. A lot of your greatest lessons is for you to come back home to you. For you to be, a lot of you had to mother yourself. So that means like, if our mother was our first home, it's recognizing that your mother was your home for that duration in the womb until you're here to find out your own individuality or your own purpose, your own way of life and being, to come back home to you. Meaning that trauma, those emotions inside, is just a gateway to you to come back home to you. Because that mothering yourself is a part of you still having to, whether it was through the trauma bonding with your mother, to now to build a more authentic bond with yourself, partnership with your spirit and your physical. Same thing with men. I've always told you, I'm like, bro, I'm not exempt. I have done things and had to become aware of how fucked up or just dysfunctional. It's almost like a child, like dysfunctional my behavior was, but it was like the dysfunction to function. Then I had to become aware of, like, the divine said, look at your son. The reason why that is important because you were a little boy. You were a little boy. And so look at how, like, life teaches us, like, when we think we're just supposed to do something like that, it ain't supposed to come immediately. No, it's not supposed to be that way. A lot of us, I had to realize, are becoming safe again. A lot of our unhealthy behavior patterns, we don't even recognize we do, has come from a belief system of society and going rooted all the way back into our first home, which is our mother. We want to forget that. You got to realize a lot of this patriarchal bullshit, a lot of this stuff has kept people so imbalanced. It literally has kept our women imbalanced. It literally has kept them emotionally unstable, imbalanced, so that it can keep promoting and keep pushing a society or families and empire of what? That is already crumbling, that y'all so desperately want to hold on to, but don't realize it's guiding you back to you, so that you can rebuild and bridge to the youth, so that they can build family, tribes, or empires. They can actually get the fuck along. They can actually have compassion for each other. When you see kids out here unaliving each other and stuff like, there's no compassion. There's no fucking compassion. When you see women out here don't even want to, they force themselves to be around each other because they don't even feel safe. Because of so much, because it's rooted in how their mother was never safe for them. So they don't feel safe with women. So then guess what? How they treat their daughters, they don't feel safe with their daughters. So they're not, of course, they're not going to keep implementing healthy boundaries or know how it is. This is where you have to give yourself grace. A lot of you have to give yourself grace, bro. I had to give myself grace. Come back. When I came back home to me, come back home to the pure heart or whatever it is, to the love to myself. The divine said, you are your first and last love. What are you talking about? I thought my mom and my dad are supposed to love me. How could they love you? How? I've given you the insight. I've given you the vision to recognize that not only do they not love themselves, they love certain parts. And the parts that they love is teaching you to keep a cycle going that is not rooted in truth and a love, vibration, or frequency, or authenticity. How? Why do you think you're finding out this about your father? Why do you think y'all finding out this about your mother? Why do you think you're finding this out about yourself? It disgusts me when I hear a lot of these stories these women have went through at such young ages. I immediately be wondering, like, dang, why did they get into this young? It's because I'm not disregarding, because I know some mothers will be like, well, he did this. I'm not, look, I go back to the mother because mama is everything. Mama always be everything. Women will always know how to navigate the waters, their emotions, just as they supposed to. I want to use the word better, but I don't want to use it in reverence like they're above men, but they will just always know how to navigate these moments. That's a surrenderance. I've learned most and will continue to learn most of what I am here to do, lessons and wisdom through women. Yep. And see, wounded ego and the old patriarchal and the old stuff wants women to believe that, like, y'all not learning through yourselves or through other women. That's it. You're thinking it's just a lot of you are wounded. A lot of you don't even, I'm supposed to say this too. A lot of y'all women that are like tomboyish or hung around a lot of men or be around a lot of men, depending on what you went through, is just to feel a sense of safety, or probably rooted in a father wound or something. But you still realize like you were around them and all like that just to, like, again, conflict avoidance or avoid your emotions or to run away from that feminine aspect of who you all are. And now it's catching up with you. And now it has caught up with you. It's like now you got to look in the mirror and realize, like, okay, what pattern has my mama showed me? Even if you even develop, even let's say your mother wasn't even there to show you anything, and you had to mother yourself. Like, that's still gonna be a process where even if she wasn't there, that's still a process of like you still trying to develop these, like, unlearn these patterns of behavior patterns of what you did not receive, and now learning to give it to yourself. And through that, it's not gonna be easy, but well, as easy when you don't know what it looks like. That's like you're giving yourself something that you've never known. And you know that saying goes, how you gonna get what you never had? That's for everybody. So that's very challenging in these moments when we're asking of a country, we're asking of people, we're asking of things where the change starts within us. We're asking of things that, like, that's where the surrenderance and the difficulty comes in. We're asking of people to give us, whether it's a mother or father, whether it's someone in our family, to give us something they never gave themselves, whether that's compassion, nurturing. We're asking of mothers to give us nurturing who never nurtured themselves. We're literally asking of societies, people, and places who only know to give through a corrupted way or manipulative way, give us things to just simply keep us in a stagnation or keep us in a control, or to force feed us things to keep us in a wounded state. Like I said, to a lot of my women, there's no amount of money, love. You know that. There's no amount of money, especially if it ain't. What is that really gonna fix? If that's internal work, or shadow work. Shadow meaning the feminine perspective, the darkness. What is that going to fix? Because I can masculinely, money is, again, physically tangible. That's a masculine aspect. But how many of you are going to take it and really go pour into yourself? I can go right now to certain demographics. The first thing a lot of women would do, let me go. I'm not saying they shouldn't go some self-care treatment, But come on, it's some people I know because they're not aware of that. Their mindset is so full. They would. What I'm saying is like, I'll be like, okay, I will pay for everything. Y'all go. Let's go do some therapy. Let's go. Let's go do some things that really bring up some unresolved emotions. Or I can go get some things and pay something off, but there's still that will still bring up something. Like that, when I say this, man, this is so many. I don't have all the answers, but man, just the clarity that comes to me about a lot of things. Like, whoa, you're talking about so many, not just demographically, but the world in its entirety. How, when I look at what a mother symbolizes in this country, there's no honor in it. There's no, I don't care what politician, what leader, there's no honor. And then with that, how many people are really living it out? How many people really are stern in their belief systems by really supporting this and not try to hide behind or prey on the wounding of these women? And that's what's being exposed. Y'all gonna see more of it. We're gonna see more of it. I'm just learning that I had to learn to have grace and compassion more because I saw my behavior patterns. I used to ask myself certain things like how much that I was so against emotions. As a darker man, I was so much against emotions. And then I start to sit down and recognize like my mom. I started to really sit and reflect on her behavior. I started to really sit and reflect on the impulsivity she had. My grandma. As soon as they didn't like something, you know, a lot of women I know, like, as soon as they didn't like something, they get angry. Their first emotion is anger. Or their first emotion is, you know, something that is unpleasant. And they'll lash out. And I'm like, whoa, now I'm able to sit back, realizing that I'm supposed to be in this position to really sit back and be like, okay. That's why they acted like that. You know, it's some women that have went through things traumatically that never sat down with the fathers, the men, or the women. Never got the opportunity to really tell their mother and father how they felt, that they're hurting, that they never felt safe with them. And my grace goes out to those who mother and father is not here, that you never have an opportunity to tell your mother, like, you know, these things about what really hurt you, what really bothered you. Because as much as we want to be into adulthood, there's still a child within us all that never really got the opportunity to say what we needed to say to some people. And one of the most challenging things is to learn it, to give it, you know, even though we cannot undo that or make up for it, you know, it's really a challenging thing to try to navigate that daily, to try to say, to try to get up and feel secure, to learn to be with ourselves the rest of our lives in a healthy way, in an empowering way, in a loving way, in a nurturing way. And then to talk about these things and for people to realize, like, what he's saying, that's jibber jabber. That's okay. I'm okay with that. But we're in the dawning of a new age to where, again, like, the missing piece to all of this is that if our mother is our first home, and we haven't had that home to go home to, what does that tell us? Which challenged me how much I had to let go of the, not just the idea, but the emotional part and the spiritual part. What the emotional part, the trauma part from my mom, it literally brought up everything. To why it is I had to accept that was not a safe place for me, not just in my childhood, but into my adult stage, but still, the child's still there. But how much I realized, like, I can have grace and compassion, but I had to allow myself to be able to face these things, talk through it, to be able to hold space with the versions of me I felt that should have been treated better. Because a lot of us did not deserve the treatment. And a lot of us are unconsciously, like, dangerous in a way if we don't try to regulate or get some type of support. And made this video support y'all some type of way to where even if you're called to therapy, even if you're called to do something new or different, that's okay, because your emotions are normal. It took me a while to realize, like, to tell myself daily, my emotions are normal. When you are growing up in environment, society where this is not a space where it's held for young men and men, and also, you know, realizing how it's rooted in our women to continuously repress these things. This is where a lot of compassion has to come in for ourselves, and grace, to create these atmospheres, and not in a manipulative fucking way. Because when I look at TV shows, when I look at all this stuff when women are on there fighting, at a point in time, my programming was thinking that was normal, because I grew up in, you know, conflict-driven environments like that. But when I look at a lot of those women, I can really see their faces. I can really see that they don't want to do that. But then you asking a woman that's getting a check or certain things to come on somewhere to feel a sense of safety when she knows she don't do that, she don't want to do that. And the ones that really are into it are just literally wounded to their core. They can convince somebody otherwise, but if you ask them why they so angry, the little girl will come out of you, especially if they're in the presence of a man who is emotionally intelligent. And if they really want to be better for themselves, and most likely a lot of that behavior just demonstrates that they have an unhealthy relationship with themselves. And that's personally from my own shit. Daily, I'm still learning and unlearning the fact of like how I've had an unhealthy relationship with myself. I've been trauma bonding with myself. So I realized certain relationships is literally mirroring that back. I had to recognize like certain patterns of people. Because to the depths of me, I didn't want to be like that. But it's difficult to believe when you're like, man, how do I get through this? I'm trying to figure this out. And it's challenging when it can feel very lonesome, when the world in itself, when you can come into a spiritual awakening or you're on a healing journey, whatever you want to call it, enlightenment or whatever, and it seems like no one gets you. But for me, for those who will see this, I get you. I see you. I don't care where you at on your journey. I see you. If you're just a mother, a father, a little boy, a little girl, you know, teenager, you know, things like that, because a lot of them, a lot of them that are young, they need to realize, like, we want to feel a sense of belonging. So again, when I've seen a lot of these shows, I realized how it was preying on the woundings of a lot of women and mothers, especially the matriarchal. And we have to see the dysfunctionality to heal, to see the unhealthy patterns that have been keeping the youth, you know, praising shit that like really is leading them to a self-sabotaging, self-destructive society. And when there's no accountability for that, you're just asking us like, okay, and just in our back. And that's what I really see with a lot of these things that are crumbling now. It's just like they're just giving y'all the dagger and to do that with yourself. Literally. You know, especially people that are darker, I've seen in this country, they literally are giving y'all the ammo to really go out there and act like that. So again, I'm honored to share these messages, but when I look at, especially like a lot of shows, and I was like, dang, why they got so many women on that? They wanna, okay, the powers that ain't, or used to be, like, they want to push this narrative like, this is how it is, this is how it will be. No, this is not. And so, and then it's even more to depths where you start to see a lot of women that are a lot of shade coming to the awareness of how they unconsciously have played a role in not speaking up, not saying nothing, and how they turn, you know, what do they call it? Turn the blind eye, or had a blind eye, turn the blind eye to it, or, you know, close themselves off just to focus on their life. And what type of, you know, when it comes to the matriarchal in its entirety, you all consist of the matriarchal. It don't matter your shade, I'm talking about on a deeper soul level. Those of you that really have compassion, meaning if you have compassion, you have to have emotions. You have to be in tune with yourself as a woman. So a lot of people that see what's been going on and not to say nothing, It says a lot about you and your character and your integrity. It says a lot about you. No one is exempt from this, y'all. This is the beauty of what is unfolding. This is what it is. So with that, what else was I getting into? If our mother's our first home, it doesn't matter where your career, where your status, or wherever you are in life. What defines the home for you? You know, how you're coming back home to you, and the uncomfortability of that, through whatever traumas, whether it was or not. You may meet someone, you maybe don't know that they had that going on. Because we tend to judge a book by its cover. People can get confused with beauty and external and don't really know the depths until you like listen and really know someone's story to see why they get into what they get into. And so, yeah. A lot of you don't realize, like, what are you really enabling? A healthy or unhealthy? So, I feel like that's all I needed to say. But that really hit me to my core about, I think that's why I was finishing off the son thing. Man, I be going places with it. Seeing my son, it was just showing me like, yeah, well, you got to start anew. You don't just jump up in life and have it all together. No, my son, it was showing me the process of how he has to build up his muscles. He cries through life. He want to be picked up. He want to be held. That's what it is. When I look at our mothers haven't had that. Our women haven't had that. We haven't had that. So it's trickled down from the matriarchal to the patriarchal. And that goes back to supportive systems. You know, if we haven't had that, if our women don't have it, how can they pour that into us, to the young boys? You know, like, when I see how the mother just naturally nurtures, even through her frustration, I honestly feel like they are the greatest leaders in whatever they do. Whatever they do. That's just what it is. I don't see no other way how to put it. I'm not saying men are not great leaders. It all depends on the women in their life. That's what I will say. Because behind every great man is a great woman, or a powerful, or grand woman, or a woman who, especially if a woman who upholds integrity, authenticity, or just, see the importance of her awareness of who she is and what she can offer, or, just being in her presence, just who she, not having to prove herself, not having to just be. And with that, it's just like, yeah. And again, when I'm recognizing the patterns of a lot of our women and what they went through, I just look at the men and that literally reflects it all, the boys and girls and everything. Because you're talking about unresolved things within us all. That's individual, our mothers and fathers, humanity, societally, communitively, whatever. But yeah, that son thing is just like, a lot of us at different points in our life where we're learning the awakening, or when you come into a healing journey, you don't have it all figured out. You'll think you heal here, but then this repressed memory or emotion will come up, and then you're like, whoa, I thought I was through this. No, you're not. There's still something internally that you need to deal with. You need to deal with, and that's okay. But also things will be shown to you who really is your supportive system, and also recognizing the dysfunctional system that you grew up in, whether that's family dynamic and so forth. And when we don't recognize that, we're just a part of the problem more than trying to find a solution. And that's what, when I look out and see what's happening, there hasn't been many solutions, because that's all people want. It ain't just a sense of belonging. They want solutions to their problem. That's why you see people overindulge in certain things, because they feel that that's the solution to their problem. To each their own, but I mean something in a more holistic approach. We don't have places, there aren't things that are implemented to hold spaces for, our mothers, our women, who keep this afloat, even through their dysfunctionality that they aren't even aware of. That, like, why should they pay rent? And I'm not saying they're part of some other system. I'm talking about there was a time where they didn't have to be concerned about these things, where you had a false ego-driven society or patriarchal that wanted to uphold a man more than balancing out the importance or even upholding the femininity and masculine, and not so much of in a wounded way, but uphold the woman in a way to where she is valuable as well. Not this ego competition thing where she has to make more money and she has to put herself on Front Street and flash her body and do like this just to feel valuable, or do stuff to her body because she don't know the importance of her value inside. And then you have your systems in place, you have your apps or whatever it is, stuff like that, to keep the narrative going, to keep a woman believing like if she don't look this way and if she don't have this, then she's not valuable, that she's not, you know. So that thing is really deep when I see my son just growing and stuff, and it just shows me like, remember, be like a child, but also remember you're new to a lot of things. You're new to learning this. I'm new to being, even a father aspect, it's new, but it brings awareness to the behavior patterns. It brings awareness to what I did not receive. But that doesn't mean I'm not being great. I just have to realize like I can become better. I can discipline myself. I don't have to try to master everything right away. But we're asking our mothers and women to step out and master things right away without the importance of their well-being. And then when they do that, they literally project this on or implement in telling the men, this is what, they're giving off this energy, this is what and how you should be. Unrealistic things. Nothing that's centered around well-being. You have to look like this, you have to be like this. I want a man that's 1,000 feet tall, you have to have $1 billion. You know, things that are unrealistic. They want to skip over something microwavable instead of really, what about yourself? How? Are you even lovable, nurturing? What was your experience like with your mother and your father? Who are you? Do you know who you are? Are you playful? Are you even connected to your inner child? Do you even know to have fun? What is fun looks like to you? And then again, going to the importance of the mother being our first home. I know a lot of women I can reflect. And I cannot say that their mother was their first home, because a lot of them seen their mother so invested into the father through her woundedness, that a lot of our women could never go home to their mother. And I don't mean just a physical home. They would go home, but that was just it. They couldn't go home and feel safe with their mother. And sometimes this could due to so much like religious things. It can be due to marriage. It can be due to a lot of things where if we don't realize, like, this is why you see a lot of grandmothers. This is why you see a lot of elder homes. This is why you see a lot of stuff where there was a time where a lot of people, when you look at the family, tribe, or empire, clan, all this stuff, it's because they took care of everything, the mothers. And I don't mean just took on the load. They held space for themselves, and they also held space for their kids. And then the man would do what he needed to do. It was just a thing that was balanced. It was balanced. And we have been so far away from that. And that's why I be sharing my message. It's like, what is home to you? What does home look like? I'm not saying that I'm saying these things for everybody to do the same thing. No, we know what that guy is. I'm saying, like, what is home for you? What does home feel like, look like for you? Humanity is in, y'all have all these homes and places, but what is home for you? And what does it mean for the mother, your mother, to be home, like, to be your first home? What does that feel like? Can you say she was your first home, your first safety net, security, and so forth? and then see how that feels and honor it. I know you may get angry. I know you may feel stuff where you can write it down. You may need to seek out support. You may even feel some type of vendetta or something towards your mother. I don't want to say not to feel it, because you need to. I did. I'm still navigating and get through things where I realize this is just preparing me for what I asked for. I told myself this the other day. I'm gonna leave y'all with this. I wouldn't skip over anything because this is an honest moment. When I look at most of the homes that I was living with, whether it came to relationships and women, I realized I was living out the fact that I never felt home within myself. So it didn't matter if I have $1 billion house, $1 million home, a little cot, whatever it is. I realized that my mother wound was showing me the importance of, and wherever you are, it was just showing me the importance of coming back home to me, to where I feel honored to build, and whether that's physically to build a home or to have a foundation where I am creating a home that does not reflect anything in my childhood that was dysfunctional or wounded, or just anything that literally looks like what I went through. So what I'm saying is, I had to literally navigate through these things to realize it was called of me to build whatever it is I'm called to do, to really come back home to myself. That means come back to the essence or love within myself, to create an environment. Because there were times where one of my greatest fears was to never create anything similar to my childhood. Can I say I've been perfect in that? Can I say I've been, that it hasn't happened? No. Because I've displayed behaviors which I had to become aware of, whoa. Meaning that I had to work on my approach. I had to become more aware that, are you healthy really for yourself? Are you healthy for the people? Are you healthy for those you say you care about? Okay, if you're not, what's keeping you from being healthy? And so that's when the divine or source, whatever you want to call it, the Most High, will reposition you to go be with yourself, to go within yourself, so that you can become more intimate with you. And then because that's a part of self-love and self-care. I had to realize a part of being intimate with myself. And one of the greatest lessons as a generational curse breaker or cycle breaker is the greatest thing we don't ever want to do, those that really are committed to this journey, is to even reenact or even create an environment that looks anything like what you went through in your childhood. And that's why I had to give myself grace, because I told myself it stops and ends with me. So with that, your situation can look different. You could have been with someone and don't realize you unconsciously been in a marriage, a partnership, and so forth, where you trauma bonded with someone, and not realize you got into that place within yourself, this don't serve me. I may need to get a place by myself. I may need to step outside of my comfort zone, because I'm really doing what my mama did. She stayed for the sake of the kids. Or my dad stayed away because he didn't know how to, really face his emotions. So this is why you see a lot of men run away or go through abandon their kids in a way, because a lot of them were never taught how to navigate their emotions, because a woman is going to mirror that all back to you. And then a lot of men, again, go through things where they don't have the healthiest partnership with themselves, and they don't recognize that they develop a unhealthy partnership with this person. So they don't know the depths of that. So they stay away. But naturally for a woman, her magnetism, she pulls, he pushes. So the displacement of the woman, when she's not in her her uprightness or righteousness or honoring a healthy, develop a healthy feminine relationship with herself, with her masculinity, she has been displaced to where she pushes the man away. Meaning like in an unhealthy behavior pattern. When you see a man, the displacement where he, let's say, like has become more grown up, when you see the society like growing up around a lot of women, he thinks he's supposed to do all these things to pull her in. In actuality, a woman who's in her power, who knows who she is, she doesn't have to do any of that. She just needs to be, because femininity to the core, being is action, which is masculine, but to her core of who she is, she just is. She's ever changing because her emotions change. So even in that, when her emotions change and flares or comes up, that's still a masculine aspect. But due to the wounded masculinity, and then you have a man who has been around women so much, like myself, it becomes an unhealthy attachment to where I have to do all these things to get her to see me when it's not supposed to be that way. We had to go through this to be restored. So I was telling myself, like, wow, that's the clarity. That's what it is. The displacement. And that's where things are being balanced. That's why I've learned that if a man is wounded, he'll manipulate, use women, or do things whether he's aware of it or not, because some people are. And they'll literally have built a culture off this to think like that's what you got to do to get a woman, or that's what you got to do. And you teaching this to the young men, so they don't have no compassion for women or little girls. So their behavior are displayed in a way to where, again, they don't realize that they're just creating more karma, and it comes back around. Perfect example of learning it. And literally it's showing you, like, can you be able to see you? Can you be able to see the pattern of what you are keeping going with men and or women, no matter who you are? So again, a culture or a society that really like have women in a disposition or a position where they thinking they have to do all this to obtain certain things, when we all just simply being our authentic selves. You don't have to do much to be magnetic. It's naturally going to happen through human interaction, through life. So, yeah. So, man, it's again, I had to learn that through going back to the importance of coming back home to myself. I wouldn't change a thing, because I see the importance of emotional intelligence. I see the importance of why certain relationships, partnerships was literally, if I was aware, mirroring back to me, oh, okay, I needed to see this, I needed to see that. But again, a society that has literally, through the unhealthiness of men thinking men are emotionally avoidant, then they develop emotionally attachments. To believe this is how I'm supposed to lure a woman in unhealthily. Then you got women believing that. Then that's all you see on social media. Then you got them thinking like, this is how I'm supposed to get a man. And in the reality of it, you can't really change or try to do so much to try to convince people. No, it's not about that. That's how deep and rooted a lot of their traumas are in their lower chakra, in their hips. You know, a lot of stuff is rooted there to where, again, going back to how like a lot of people will be at a place where they'll come to awareness in a relationship, partnership, marriage, whatever, and not realize like, or come to the awareness like, a lot of things were trauma bonds. It goes back to my video talking about the trauma bonds of society and the corporations. And you realizing like, nah, trauma bonding with currency, a lot, man, I can go on and on. But again, the importance of all of this is that, what does home look like for you? Where is home? It ain't just a physical home. Where is home for you emotionally, mentally, spiritually? And then that's when the physical comes into play. Where is home? And that looks different for everybody. When are you going to come back home to you? Peace and bliss. Shalom.